How's it? Welcome back to the channel. So I was talking with a buddy of mine who recently found one of my pages, and it's always funny when that happens because it's never something that I'll just bring up on my own unless it happens to be on topic for some odd reason. So I can know people for years and I'll just never bring up that I got this whole side shit going on, and it always leads into a fun conversation for me, at least. But this was coming from a guy who really doesn't care about sleep, but he's getting like under 6 hours basically all the time and doesn't even really care. Like he almost prioritizes that, right? Like he thinks he can get more shit done while he's awake. But the basic gist of it was like, first of all, well, what's lucid dreaming? But then the second question was like, oh, like why am I so into it? Like what's up with me and my whole interest in sleep? Because I like it, beyond just lucid dreaming and dream work and stuff. So I thought I would shoot a little video about, why I like sleep so much. So first of all, I think it's kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, especially if the conditions are right, like say you're tired, you're comfortable, the temperature is right, you're not stressing about anything, right? You got a lot of time to sleep. What's better than that? That's a wonderful scenario to be in. So then the actual question becomes like, how can you check all those boxes? Which I actually kind of made a couple videos on here recently. I've done a bunch of videos on it in the past, but not really the point of this video. But when it comes to sleep, I like all of it. Like even like the falling asleep process, which I know some people can, kind of not like that. It's boring. They feel like they get stuck awake or something. But for me, I really enjoy the falling asleep process. I mean, first of all, when else can you get guaranteed quiet time to yourself during the day, right? Especially after you have kids and a family and stuff like that, right? Like that kind of time's hard to come by, and having that, that one time a day, every single day where you get that quiet time to yourself, is really awesome and actually also useful, right? You can do so much with that time. Now, granted, you don't want to get stuck awake in bed for a prolonged period of time because you're playing in your head. But, if you really learn your falling asleep process, that doesn't really become, it definitely doesn't become a constant issue. Of course, that kind of stuff can pop up every once in a while. And I've actually made a video on it in the past where, if you want to find a time where you can fall asleep really quickly. So for a lot of people, if they have time to take a nap, typically, especially if you're like my buddy who's getting like 5 hours of sleep every night, I bet he could nap really easily in the middle of the day. So that's a good time to kind of really pay attention and learn your falling asleep process. But, having that ample free time in bed, there's so much you can do with it, right? You can do like, like kind of like work with creative problem solving and stuff like that with like basically a modified version of the Salvador Dali, Thomas Edison method. You can use a time to meditate, and there's so many different kinds of meditation you can take that all these different routes. You can work with like, mental visualization, affirmations, or playing hypnagogy, of course, which is pretty much like my jam, right? You can, learn to play in the hypnagogic space, work out those same mental muscles that you use while you're lucid dreaming, and then hopefully have, like a good lucid dream later on in the night. But really, like, there's just so many possibilities. And basically anything that you can do, right, that doesn't involve physical movement, essentially can be done while you're going to sleep and lying in bed. And now, of course, as I said earlier, you don't want to get stuck awake in bed because your brain's firing and, it's going to start to stress you out. You're going to be extra tired the next day. But a really simple solution to get around that, now granted, this is much easier said than done, but, go to sleep earlier so you have ample time to, be stuck in bed playing around in your head. And plus, if you start sleeping earlier, it really doesn't take that long to change your circadian rhythm. Like if you want to change it by a couple hours, you could do that in probably a few days. Or, I've even talked about like good ways that I've found to go to sleep, a bunch of hours earlier than I typically do, especially if I got to like catch an early flight out for work or something the next day. So there are things you can do to kind of make falling asleep easier. But, when you give yourself that bigger buffer too, hey, I got 8 hours of time dedicated to being in bed, you can afford to spend a decent amount of that, awake in bed. Plus, what's better than this is, there is nothing better than this. One of my favorite things about sleep is like, say you have a good chunk of time dedicated to bed, 8-9 hours or whatever. You go to sleep, you wake up after a little bit to go use the bathroom, you look at the clock and you have like 6 more hours of sleep. I mean, come on now, that shit is the best. I love that feeling. But anyway, just find the little things about sleep that you do like, focus on those, and it can go a long way. Plus, and this is not even getting into the whole fun that dreams can have. And yeah, in the next video, I'll share a little thing that I like to do, or like a perspective I like to have towards my dreams, which can, in some ways give you a better, more positive dream life. Anyway, yeah, so do that one next. And until the next video, keep your sleep practices legit.